Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of y'all and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. I am looking to not make this very long. I've stated before how it is that oftentimes men make it very difficult because what men will do and what men won't do is men will do what works for them, but men won't share information for the express purpose of taking away women's options to play men. And when I say play men, I mean in any way, form, or fashion, they would not tolerate a man playing them. To play you below the belt is one way. To play you financially is another. To play you socially, doesn't matter. Anything that they would not tolerate you doing, and that's a whole lot of things, they should not have the ability to do to you. And men don't like to share information that will put a stop to this. This is where the dating roaches fail. They'll say, be the man to whom these women don't want to do certain things. When enough men become these kinds of men, then the women will turn around and do the same things to even them. So what I would say is that another thing that's going to happen in order for you to be appreciated, even in non-Western environments, is going to be that while you work on yourself, you're going to have to hide a lot of the good things about your life. You may want to have a car that you like and you take good care of it, but you don't have to have the expensive car. The car that says you got money is not the one that you want to go around in every day. And what's the reason for that? Well, because you're in a situation in which now, as things get tougher, you simply become more of a mark. These women are not able to learn. The ones that already have learned to not love you and appreciate you and respect you are not going to be able to learn that simply because you're so visually and physically alpha. You can't win them back by being the traditional man. You're not seen as good enough for them to be the traditional woman. That's not how they feel. They feel like you've got to be the Superman and they get to be Lois Lane. That's what you're dealing with in the West. But what you must understand is that as you go to the gym and you work out and you get healthy, when the results begin to show, it is actually a good idea to dress modestly. When you get stacks and you can afford to buy the car you want without a note, you may still want to have a car that you can use to go low profile in. You may still want that. You may actually still need it, and keep it well taken care of, maintained. This is a necessity. These things, the ability to keep a low profile, are going to be absolutely necessary. Now I say that because, number one, if you do show off what you got, trying to get them draws, all you're going to do is raise the expectations. Because who they're willing to screw, they still will demand from them marriage. So if you become the guy they're willing to lay down with, that you're also going to be the guy they're going to want a commitment from, demand a commitment from. Of course, they want it, but they will demand a commitment from you. And understand, you will never be out of reach of them doing anything vindictive to punish you when you don't supply that. Chris Brown, anyone? You see where I'm going with this? Chris Brown had receipts. Thankfully, he had them. Her attorney had to step off the case and say, I did not know about these messages before. I can't represent her. That's not all. We know about the case of Ryan Coogler, who went into the bank and showed his ID and everything and passed all of the ID verification, but because he wanted the transaction to be discreet so that he was not going to be a target walking out of the bank with a large amount of cash that was obvious to be in his possession, Boom Shika, called the cops on him, of all people. Called the cops on him. You need a way to keep a low profile, and understand when a sister's involved in your financial business officially and you've passed all the security checks, you still got to be careful. Oh, she proved that. Flossing, styling and profiling, blinging right now are not going to work to necessarily increase your mating opportunities or to validate you to them. All it's going to do is set you up to be a target. And there's nothing that's going to stop them from trying that. As times get worse, you will find that oftentimes they will commit financial crimes more than or even before men would do it. And you would think that it should be on the men because we're the ones on whom the financial responsibility and burden lies. You'll find they'll do it because they simply don't want to go it out. See, over a year ago, a driver here, rideshare driver here, picked up a fare, and it was 3 ladies. They, citizens of this country, decided to distract him, one with a conversation in the back seat while the other one sought to take the money from where he was stashing the cash to make change. And he just happened to catch her trying it. Now, we don't touch each other if you're not related or married in this country, but you're allowed to grab a lady's hand if she's trying to steal something from you. That's okay. I want you to stop and think about the ramifications of even that attempt. What does even the attempt at such a crime tell you? And this was over a year ago. The thing is, this rideshare driver was driving a nice car. I think it's a Hyundai Sonata, but it's not anything fancy. And he wasn't showing off his wealth. There really isn't like a type of thobe or robe you would wear to show off how much money you have for guys here in this country. So other than the house and the car, there aren't really many status symbols a man would wear. You know, maybe an expensive watch, but people really aren't checking for that. Maybe an expensive ring, but men are not allowed to wear gold, period. So in this case, how would he show off? He just happened to have this stash of cash like he's supposed to make change for his customers, his passengers. And what wound up being the case? They tried to get him, and this is a while back. So stop and think about this for as long as you need to. When you find a way to make it at all, or when you find a way to even keep your head above water, you become a target. And see, one of the reasons why these ladies were willing to do this is because he can get more violent with a man to stop him than he can with a lady. If he beats a man to brain death, and there's no proof that he did it in self-defense, he can say there's no proof I did it at all. Gave this dude a lift, let him out. He was fine when I left. So he could do something like this, and there wouldn't even be that much of an outrage. You've had people here who stab someone in the head, and they get off because the victim doesn't remember who stabbed them. So, men can catch it here if they get into a conflict. It's easy to avoid, but men can catch it here if they get into one. They really could. So, it's going to be a good idea, really, gentlemen, to do as well as you can, but to appear to not be doing much better than others, especially when you're around strangers. These are the kind of times that we've been living in, and it's just getting more of that. Because see, when the minute that, and Mahdi Tijani has rightfully said, when everybody becomes a high value man, then what's a high value man? All it's going to do is cause them to raise their standards. You're trying to get their approval. They raise their standards. You're back to square one. But then more of you are marks because of how good you're doing. Oh, yeah. The number of men that they view as targets is always more than the number of men that they view as actual objects of lust. Keep that in mind, gentlemen. It's not your fault. So don't get your shine on. Do well if you can, if God will let you. And you'll make the effort, of course. But Lord, help those who actually show it. Because what's waiting on you if you do? What's waiting on other men if you do? As long as you're in the West, you've got every right to make decisions that pretty much force them to have to make some tough choices in life anyway. Not even out of hatred, but because that's just how life is. And it's a lesson that any adult needs to learn. And unfortunately, right now, you're surrounded not by adults, but you're surrounded by overgrown kids, which, again, is not your fault. It's not anything you did wrong.
Go.
So thanks for being patient with me for almost 12 minutes while I explain this point. And as usual, black heart, black mind, blackout, assalamu alaikum, black heterosexual, non-select male power just because they don't like it, and black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day.